Well, hey there, third graders. It's Miss Smith. You caught me out in my garden. Well, since you're here, let's do a lesson on plants. So let's talk today about plants, their structure, their parts, and the function of each part, why those parts are so important to a plant. Because you saw my garden, I got lots of things going on here, so let's talk about that. So think about it. Can you name the parts of a plant? Do you know already? I bet you named some of the parts. Let's just review real quick in case you've forgotten. Okay, let's start with this word. Roots. Okay, roots absorb water and they absorb nutrients from the ground, from the soil. Stem. Stems provide support and they help bring those nutrients into the plant's leaves. Oh, I said the next one. Leaves. Leaves synthesize food. They help make the food. I tell my students it's like a little kitchen. You wouldn't want your house to not have a kitchen. Well, plants need a kitchen, and that's their leaves. That's where the food is made for the plant. And flowers. Now, not all plants are flowering plants, but many are. And the flowers attract pollinators, which is really important to plants that produce seeds because it helps them reproduce and make more plants. All right, and another important word we're going to read about today in our book, it's a $2 word. Do you know it? Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Well, I'll just wait. We'll get to that in the book. All right, so the book I'm going to read you in a little bit is called Amazing Plant Powers: How Plants Fly, Fight, Hide, Hunt, and Change the World. So in this book, we'll talk about those parts of a plant and how they're important to that plant's survival. So we were just talking about those parts, so out digging in my garden, I found some good examples. So just in the last few weeks, you've been noticing these pretty yellow flowers probably around your yard and around the roads you've been driving on. They're called daffodils. So this is a daffodil plant that I dug up. Can you see the roots? Okay, and this plant happens to be a plant that comes from a bulb. So it's not a seed plant. Everything that it needs to reproduce is right here, this little bulb. We'll talk about that later. It's an interesting process. Okay, so I know you see the roots. Do you see the leaves? Here's the leaves. And then the stem. There's several stems in this plant, but right here, this is the stem. And on top of the stem is the dead plant. Used to be a beautiful yellow flower, but now it's not anymore, but that's where the flower was. So you can see all those parts of a plant. All right. So just so you can see some plants. Here's some more plants. Do you see the stem? Do you see those leaves? And then right here is a beautiful flower. We'll dissect a flower one day and talk about the parts of a flower and how each of those parts has an important job in reproducing that plant. Here's some other flowers. Aren't those pretty? They're little violets. And these are lily of the valley. Got lots of plants. And check out this one right here. Did you know that this is a part of a plant? What do you call that? Yeah, it's a tree trunk, but it's also a stem. So, let's read a little bit of our book and we'll just talk about those part plants in action. Our book today, I told you, was called Amazing Plant Powers. And it talks about the plant's parts. And it also talks about how each of those parts, how they adapt to different parts of their environment. And they help that plant survive. Welcome to our wild world. I'm Spiky Prickles, and today's show is all about amazing powers of plants. Our green friends have astonishing abilities, as you soon will see. Let's look at some common plant parts. Not all plants have every part. This plant shows a bud, a leaf, a stem, just like I showed you, and there's the daffodil, just like I showed you right here. There's the daffodil. But this one shows the flower. And it shows the bulb underneath. This one's a seed plant, so it just shows the roots underneath. There they are. Leaf, stem, bud or flower, and the roots. Every plant needs light, water, air, and minerals to live. I didn't say soil, did I? Do plants need soil to survive? I'll talk about that one day. All right, here's our big leaf. Let's start with the most important plant power of all. All plants use light to make food for themselves. Along the way, they release oxygen, which people and animals need to breathe. This process is called, there's my $2 word, photosynthesis. Okay, so photosynthesis is the plant process of using sunlight, carbon dioxide, minerals, and water to make sugar and release oxygen. So this little diagram here shows one of our important text features. Carbon dioxide and light go into the plant's leaf, and then inside the plant it gets the sugars, which is the food it needs, and it releases oxygen. So plants are very important for humans. Plants need water, and some can even live in it. These aquatic plants have flexible stems that move with the force of the ocean's waves. These plants can float on the water. Some plants' roots hold soil, which is great for soil erosion. We'll talk about soil in a couple of our lessons. And these roots can filter out salt. These plants can live in the ocean, and these roots are partly above ground, so they can filter out the salt and get the water that they need. They're called mangroves. I used to see those a lot when I lived in Florida. Now, some plants live where it's very dry. Dry places and seasons are tough for plant survival, but they've learned to adapt. Okay, so many cacti have no leaves, which reduces their water loss. Or how they get their food. Thick trunks, leaves, or stems can store the water during drying times. Some plants can wilt when it's dry, then revive when it rains again. So here's a fern, and I was going to show you a fern down in my garden because they don't have seeds or bulbs. They're a very different plant. Many plants have long roots that go way underground where they can catch water. And some plants survive by having a very fast life cycle. So they can life cycle through, and then it's okay that they don't have all that water to survive. Shade. Shade makes it hard for plants to get enough light. Vines climb up trees or objects to reach the sunlight. I can see this plant over here. It's kind of growing more to one side out from under a plant, so it can get that sunlight that it needs. Sometimes they grow really large, dark leaves so they can absorb more light. Some sprout early. Early bird gets the worm, and they get that light out. They get their leaves out before others so they can get the soil and the minerals that they need. And then growing taller allows plants to get more light. Soils may not be ideal for plant growth. Some plants need no soil at all. Carnivorous plants live in poor soil, so they hunt insects for extra nutrients. You guys heard of the Venus flytrap? They actually live here in North Carolina. They live in very sandy soil. So to get their extra nutrients, they found a way to adapt. Loose sand can be held together by long roots. So some of those plants can have those long roots to help them survive. And then soil bacteria in root nodules helps peas and beans make fertilize. Some plants need no soil at all. Air plants grow on other plants. Lichens grow on bare rock. After volcanoes erupt, some pioneer plants sprout in the crooked larva. Now I had a plant right here that's growing on a rock. It's called moss. You can see that it's learned to adapt to its environment. It's growing right there without soil. Growing right there on that rock. Isn't that neat? So it's neat to look around, boys and girls, and find some unique ways that plants can survive. Pollinators help flowers make seeds. Flowers use color, scent, or nectar to attract bees and other pollinators. And seeds come in many shapes and sizes. So you can see those pollinators on that page. What do you see? A butterfly, a bee, and I bet you can name some other pollinators. I was looking for some earlier, and of course they were flying around my garden. And now, when I have my video out, I don't see any, but they'll be back. We'll capture some of those one day. I've seen a few butterflies around in my yard also. I hope you have. So I'm going to stop right there at the seed section and show you guys a few seeds. And we'll continue our lesson tomorrow. We'll get more into seeds and different kinds of seed plants. So I wanted to show you milkweed. There's the seed for the milkweed plant that we planted a few at school, and I'm going to go back over to our school garden and plant some more of those, and I'll keep you guys updated on how our milkweed are doing. You know, milkweed are important for a very special animal that we want to help take care of, the monarch butterfly. So here's some zinnia seeds. Those are really pretty flowers. This tiny little seed will help grow into a big plant that will produce big tomatoes. How about that? That little tiny seed. Here's a watermelon seed, some of you guys are probably familiar with. And this is a seed from an herb. It's chives. Tiny little seed. So seeds come in all shapes and sizes. And we have many, many different seeds. Seed plants. We'll talk about those a little bit more later. All right. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed being out in my garden with me. I want you to remember those plant parts. Let's review real quick. Roots, stem, leaves, flowers, and our big word, photosynthesis. So go outside in your garden today, guys. Look for plants. See if you can find all those parts. Let me know how it goes. See if you can write down, draw a plant, and write down the names of the plant parts and what those parts are important, why they're important. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.